Well, everyone, I'm waiting till we get to 15 seconds so I can swear. All right, great. Guys, what the fuck? I literally. Oh, we were 20 minutes into a stream. And my internet went completely fucked. Like completely just kaput dead. Oh, Nicholas, we got to run those 20 minutes back, baby. You ready?
Oh yeah.
It's going to be something. But guys, thank you for joining us for the round two attempt at this. We're going to be doing our best here, but let's skip the formalities and just get back into the. We have a fucking fun show for you guys tonight. There's so much movie news to talk about it. We already got through 20 fucking minutes of it, but and we weren't even going to get into the good shit yet. We got through 20 fucking minutes of a show when the internet went down. Jesus Christ. You ready for the
We
first
got through the
goddamn story?
B-roll.
We got
We were
through
just
the
in the
B-roll.
we were just in the trailers.
And you know what? We're running the trailers back. Let's do it again. Here it
Let's
is.
do it.
Ready?
Take it from the top.
Boom. Taking it from the top.
Can you give me a different read on that one?
Yeah. Hey, do it again, but faster and more intense. First news story. First news story of the day, everybody. Chris Pine is going to be in a new movie with Noah Hawley. Written and directed by Noah Hawley. It's a small town criminal who inadvertently kills the nephew of his boss. As we mentioned in the now deleted video, this is my shit. I'm a big fan of this. Noah Hawley is amazing. Legion's amazing. And I think this is cool. Nicholas, what do you think?
Yeah, like I said, I'm a big fan of Chris Pine. Big fan of Noah Hawley. I've watched a good chunk of Fargo. It's an anthology. I think I've watched about 3 of the 5 seasons. And I am actively excited for Alien Earth coming, I believe, in the summer of this year. I think that, yeah, he writes really quirky, weird characters, and I think Chris Pine can play those very well. And if, he needs to take some interesting projects until, whatever producer or executive decides to get their head out of their ass and greenlight a Dungeons and Dragons sequel.
Yes, saying the real stuff out here, Nicholas.
But yeah, I'm excited. Noah Hawley is a very interesting director, and so I am actively excited for this.
No, I am too. Noah Hawley's great, and as I mentioned, again in the now deleted video, if you can take a beloved Coen Brothers film and turn it into your own TV show that is true to the DNA of that film, but also its own thing, you've done something incredibly successful. And plus, I think Legion is one of the most underrated shows I've ever watched. I love that show. So I'm all about this. This is my shit. I cannot wait for this film called Nowhere Fast. It's going to be awesome. Nicholas, moving on to our next story. An IMAX, someone working with IMAX is talking about the deal with Netflix to release Greta Gerwig's Narnia films. Called the deal fairly complex, and my favorite part of it, he said, quote, "We are not in a rush to do another one." And it's one of those things where Netflix is going to be Netflix about the stuff they do, and they're not going to make it easy to distribute your film theatrically. And so much so that the person with IMAX, when talking about how successful and how proud he was of the deal, said, "Yeah, we're not in a rush to do another one. Fuck that." He didn't say fuck that, but he wanted to. You can tell. But
So many words.
It's so many. I listen. I don't know why Netflix keeps doing this to themselves. They keep shooting in the foot, but I'm just glad it was a success, and we're gonna get it. I think that's the positive takeaway here.
Yeah, no, I think that, they're not in a rush to do another one unless, this one is uber successful at the box office, and if Greta Gerwig's last movie, Barbie, is any indication, I think that, pair that with a successful IP and a recognizable IP, maybe that we're in for something interesting here. I think my interest does lie in the fact that Greta Gerwig is attached to this, and if anyone's going to get shit done, it's her. So I think, yeah, they might not be in a rush, many hands, bureaucratic red tape and whatnot, but this movie makes $1 billion, you bet their ass they're going to be looking at it as a much more viable option to try to get in line with these streamers. I do, however, think Netflix will end up being sort of that last holdout still. Like, I could see IMAX using that as a template to go to other streamers. I could see Apple taking a very proactive approach on that. They seem to be the most forward and wanting to do these theatrical releases. So I could see that being a possibility. But I still feel like this movie could make $2 billion at the box office, and Netflix will be like, everyone would have still watched it on the streaming service.
Yeah.
And you're
Oh
like,
my God,
that you would not have made $2 billion. You just wouldn't have.
dude. Someone recently with Netflix said in an interview that like Oppenheimer would have been just as popular if it released on Netflix, and I'm just like, shut the fuck up.
That's
You,
just
you
wrong.
know you know you're full of shit. Like there's no way you're that delusional in it. But
Do you,
going
do you know
to
the
a little
money
bit
that Knives Out 3 would make theatrically?
so much money. Because Knives Out 2 did really well in the one fucking week that it had in theaters. I think that what's funny, you mentioned like, oh, if this movie makes $1 billion, they're going to make more deals. They're not putting it in there long enough for it to make $1 billion. I don't think almost no movie can make $1 billion in 2 weeks unless you're Avengers Endgame. But like
That's fair. It's going to be like a 30 to 60 day window, probably 30.
yeah, I think it's less. I think it's 2 weeks. I think it's 2 weeks.
That's all they're giving it is 2 weeks.
I think so, maybe 3. I think it's between Thanksgiving and Christmas. I think is what they're
I mean, I guess
doing.
it's better than nothing, but Jesus Christ, give it a chance.
Yeah, and like it's one of those things where like yeah, maybe they'd go to Apple if Apple didn't fail spectacularly with all of their recent theatrical releases, because Apple was very cool and they were like, we're going theatrical, and then they proceeded to fund movies that no audiences were going to go see, like fucking Napoleon. It's like, hey, the target audience for that hasn't been going to the theaters since COVID. I don't know what you're doing giving that movie $200 million for, but
No,
now
I
they
feel
have
like they
cold
had
feet
would have
about
had.
theatrical releases.
I feel like they would have had a much better opportunity theatrically releasing The Gorge, the new Miles Teller and Taylor Joy movie.
Fucking A. And I still haven't watched it. I really want to watch it, but when I saw the trailer
I've not
and just
either.
saw
Yeah.
Scott Derrickson, Miles Teller, Anya Taylor-Joy, oh fuck, let me go book my tickets. Fuck you, it's on Apple. Like I was like, are you serious? That's so upsetting.
Mhm.
But guys, what do you think about the IMAX executive talking about this Netflix deal with Greta Gerwig and Netflix? Moving on to our next story, Nicholas. Street Fighter has a new director, and that director is I'm going to pronounce this so wrong, and I apologize. Kitao Sakurai. Kitao Sakurai. This person is famous for writing, directing, and executive producing the Eric Andre Show. Capcom is developing the film with Legendary. It's set to release in March of 26, and it was previously going to be directed by Danny and Michael Filippo of Talk to Me fame and, of course, Raka Raka fame. I was very sad when they left the project, but this director also recently directed some episodes of Twisted Metal. He's on the up and up, clearly, and this is either going to be a really big break for him or a really big downfall for him. But Capcom, it seems like, as they're being kind of picky with how they're being developed, they want to be protective of their IP. So if the fact that they're hiring him could be a good sign, could be a bad sign. Do you have any specific thoughts on this one?
I mean, one is Twisted Metal on the up and up. You know,
It's on the up and up in
um,
terms of diversifying your work.
I guess so. And budget, that show looks like it's got some money being poured into it, or the TV show. Sorry. I don't have a strong connection to the Street Fighter games. And so it's not a director I'm familiar with. I've watched the Eric Andre show. I love these sort of absurd, over the top comedy that is on it. I think Eric Andre is very funny, but I don't know how that directly translates to Street Fighter directing.
Yeah.
So, I'm interested. I don't know if I have it necessarily an excitement for it. Maybe once I see a trailer, see where they're taking it, where they're going with it. But Capcom Street Fighter director I'm not familiar with. Okay, it's sort of just a whatever story for me. Make a Mega Man movie, Capcom. That's
Yeah.
all I'm saying.
That,
That's the
that would be
IP that
very
you
cool.
need. That's a fletching.
Yes.
After the success of Sonic, I would not be shocked. How there's not like a little version of that with Mega Man in development, I'm not sure.
I mean, I think it's possible. I also think that going animated may be a better route because animation's where the money's currently at. Because Mario made over $1 billion, and
That is true.
it's going to be one of those things of
I'll
just
take however I can get it.
can they continue it? Just give me the Smash Bros movie. That would be fun. But
Mega
guys,
Man
what
could
do you
be in
think?
that.
It could be. What do you think of the Street Fighter movie finding its new director? Let us know in the comments as we move on to our next story. And Nicholas, this next story got me a little hyped, got Hannah a little hyped, and I know it's not necessarily going to get you hyped because you haven't watched the goddamn original show, but Avatar, The Last Airbender, is getting a sequel series called Seven Havens. It's an order at Nickelodeon, and it is set after The Legend of Korra, will be 2D animated. It consists of 26 episodes, half hours long, over 2 seasons. The original creators are back, and there's a brief synopsis here. A world shattered by a devastating cataclysm, a young earthbender discovers she's the new Avatar after Korra, but in this dangerous era, that title marks her humanity's destroyer, not its savior. Hunted by both the human and spirit enemies, she and her long-lost twin must uncover their mysterious origins and save the Seven Havens before civilians' last strongholds collapse. Obviously, it sounds very cool. The original Nickelodeon series is great. I liked the Netflix season 1 so far. I know it's gotten some hate. I thought it was fine. It wasn't, perfect, but I didn't think it was terrible. The M. Night movie, just don't bother. But, I think this is great for the fans. I think it's great for people who love this world, love this show. It's obviously great for the showrunners who have more stories to tell in this world, it feels like. And, I'm really hoping that it can be successful and it can drive in not only the old audience that it has, but a new audience, for new kids and new families to come together. Like, I think this is a great opportunity for someone who was a kid watching Avatar can now show their kid this show. I think that's very cool, very magical. I know that you won't have much to say because you haven't watched the series, but, does hearing news like this spark your interest to dive into this world or no?
No, not really. I mean, I have wanted to watch the original Avatar series. I think it's just something I haven't gotten around to. It's not an anger or a aversion to it. I just haven't done it, quite frankly. So I don't really have much to. Trying to watch my words before all the Avatar fans come for me. I'm not going to say anything against it. I do want to watch it. So yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say is season 1 is very. While the lore and everything is really great, it does feel childish. But as you get to season 2 and 3, like it really, dude, the last 3 episodes of season 3 are like Avengers Endgame. Your hype is shit watching those last 3 episodes. Like it's very, very well made. Just don't watch the M. Night movie, and you'll be fine.
Season 2 of the live action's coming, right? That's a thing that was confirmed.
Yeah, if it's not the end of this year, it's beginning of next year.
Okay,
you're getting 2 and 3. I think it got renewed for 2 and 3.
Oh, look at that. They'll catch up to the original series, right?
That's right. That is right. That is right. Well, guys, what do you think of this new Avatar series coming to Nickelodeon? Let us know in the comments as we move on to our next story. And Nicholas, I love Delroy Lindo. You love Delroy Lindo. We also both love Godzilla and Kong. And goddamn it, he's going to be in the next Godzilla Kong movie. It's going to be directed by Grant Sputor. Is that how you say that? Some previous credits that you listed there for us is he's in the upcoming Sinners, Defy Bloods, The Harder They Fall. Dude, in Defy Bloods, he's so goddamn good. And it was a shame he didn't get Oscar nominated for it. And, it's just one of those things. But I think there's nothing but great news. It's always a good idea to add talent to your film. And having Delroy Lindo be in this movie is, I think, nothing but great news. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, I agree. To me, I'm gonna go watch the monkey fight the lizard. That's just a fact.
Mm-hmm.
It's my goddamn given right.
As an American,
but I think that what these movies have struggled with is that human element and the human storylines. And to me, one of the best characters in the series, I do really like Brian Tyree Henry's character, but I also really loved Dan Stevens' character in this upcoming one, So, you have Dan Stevens returning, you have Caitlin Dever from Booksmart and Last of Us Season 2 and a bunch of other things. She's, I believe, set to be like the lead of this new one, and now you're adding Delroy Lindo to the cast. They're really rounding out their cast with a lot of heavy hitters that I am actively excited to watch. So, I'm hoping that this is signs that maybe they're taking the criticisms of those human plots into consideration, and maybe we'll be in for something cool here.
No, absolutely. And Guys, we're now going to move on to the stories that we're going to do kind of deep dive, longer talks about. And this is where we left off when the original stream, I lost internet and we lost everything. Nicholas, we promised to do it faster and more intense, and we cut 5 minutes off. It was 20 minutes before, it's 15 minutes now. Look at us go. Look at us go. That's how you trim the fat. That's how you do it. Just lose internet and then do it again. That's how you do it. Oh, boy. But, guys, we have a whole DC studio section to dive into here, and that's what we're going to do now. The first news story in this DC studio section is pretty significant, and that is that we were reporting that Daniel Craig was going to be in a Sergeant Rock film with Luca Guadagnino directing, of Challengers and Queer fame, with the writer of Challengers. And while it's still being written by the writer of Challengers, it will no longer star Daniel Craig. He has dropped out of the film completely, and they are now looking for a new star of the film. It's about a World War II soldier, kind of just tough as nails guy, and I believe he was briefly in Creature Commandos, if I'm not mistaken. And you know what's funny? There are some iterations of this comic where he gets killed by the last bullet fired in World War II, just because the character just can't exist outside World War II. Like, it's just so tied to that period of time. And I hope they do that in the movie. That would be so cool.
Pretty good.
But something interesting that I don't know if it's this Hollywood Reporter article or if it's a Deadline follow-up article, but did you see who they are already looking at to play Sergeant Rock after Daniel Craig dropped out?
I did not. Who?
And according to Jeff Snyder, he already has the offer. They're just waiting on a response. You ready?
Oh, yeah, hit me with it.
Jeremy Allen White.
Mm.
It was a matter of time. It was a matter of time before one of these big studios snatched him up. I mean, he's playing a Hutt in fucking Star Wars, but it's not a big role to kind of showcase his talents.
Yeah.
But according to the Jeff Snyder newsletter, he has the offer, and there's one source working for Jeff that says that he thinks it's going to work out and that he's going to take it. But there's another source for Jeff saying that he's asking for a lot of money, and part of the appeal of this movie is that it's going to be lower budget. I believe it's going to be around $40 million budget. I believe Deadline was reporting that, which very cost effective from Warner Brothers and DC there. But, if Daniel Craig was costing a lot of money and he's dropping out, then the obvious next step is to save some money. So if that is the case, we don't know obviously if it's 100% true, but if that is the case, that's interesting. I personally think Jeremy Allen White would be an interesting in the role if he wants to. But, kind of give me your thoughts on this, because a lot of what the article dives into as to why Daniel Craig had dropped out was there's plenty of different reasons. There are some people saying that he never actually fully committed to doing the movie. He just kind of talked about it with Luca Guadagnino, and then just as pen started to get on paper, he was like, hey, never mind, this isn't for me. But there are a lot of people who are suggesting that he was actually upset by the fact that his awards campaign didn't work out with Luca Guadagnino. He didn't get that Oscar nomination. And, when you're riding the high with somebody in the moment, you can say like, yeah, we're going to do this next. We're going to do all this. And then when push comes to shove and you don't get the result you want, you're like, all right, well, moving on to the next thing. So there are some people in the industry thinking that. I don't necessarily think that that's true. I don't know for sure, obviously, but I think it's more of the line of he never fully kind of committed to doing this and was just kind of thinking about it. And now as it got more real and more tangible, he was like, hey, this is kind of not for me. But, Luca's trucking right along. I don't expect Luca to drop out or for that to change at all. I just expect them to cast a new actor. I wouldn't be shocked if we hear that Jeremy Allen White accepts the role. Where's your head at in all this? What do you think of him dropping out? And, do you think Jeremy Allen White's a good replacement if that's true?
Yeah, it's interesting to see, right? Because, that awards campaign, he was really he was trying to give himself a big push with that, and ultimately it didn't work out. I don't think Queer got no nominations, correct? If I recall
That is correct.
correctly, so I could see him maybe being a little scorned by that, in terms of Jeremy Allen White, I mean, I think he is a phenomenal actor. I think The Bear's great. And I think something like that would attract him to this is that opportunity to work with a very prominent filmmaker like Luca. He's cranking him out. I mean, my God, So I could see that having some appeal. The paycheck's probably nice as well, but I think more, he is a younger actor, probably looking for this opportunity to get in with these directors, and if they have a very good dynamic on set, this is an opportunity to expand much farther past DC's Sergeant Rock, not to
Yeah.
mention Luca's next movie coming out, After the Hunt, I believe it's called,
Yeah, I think you're right.
stars stars Ayo Edebiri from The Bear. So she's already worked
Hmm.
with him as co-star while they're filming all this, while she's probably talking about her experience on set, So I think it makes perfect sense. That being said, though, he does have the money. He does have the ability to back it up and demand probably a very well-deserved paycheck, But if they're trying to keep this budget modest, that's just do you want the money, or do you want the experience and the opportunity and the idea to potentially be a, recurring character, And I think the Easy Company, I don't really have much of a connection to Sergeant Rock and the Easy Company outside of, what I saw on the one episode of Creature Commanders that featured them. But, I really enjoyed seeing them and their dynamic, and, this is another opportunity to bring GI Robot back. So that makes me happy as
Yes.
well.
Of
But
course, of
yeah, I'm
course.
curious to where that paycheck versus opportunity to work with a great director. I'm curious where that sort of will end up.
Yeah, no, same. And it's one of those things where, um, I think DC's in an interesting position where they're making films, they're establishing a new universe, but they're not necessarily building to a story right now. They're just kind of making films. And the fact that their whole mantra is we're not going to start anything until the script is done and ready. And the
Yeah.
fact that this has already been announced by James Gunn and everybody that this is happening tells me that the script is at least really good.
Well, I
So,
have two more points too when you're done.
no, I was just going to say, I think that obviously the film is looking good. They obviously need to get their main star attached, but go on.
No, yeah, and I think I saw some reports too, rumors that Mikey Madison is potentially circling a role too. I don't know how verified that got in the trades, but if you're adding her to the cat, he's attracting high level talent, as is DC Studios as a whole. And uh, oh, good.
No, I was just going to say
Oh,
what I've heard with Mikey Madison is she wants to work with Luca on, quote, his next film, but we don't know if his next film is Sergeant Rock. That's kind of the whole where that story came from. And
I
my
see. Okay.
my whole thing is if you're going to cast Mikey Madsen in this world and Margot Robbie won't come back, fucking make her Harley Quinn. Don't put her in Sergeant Rock. Come on, we have a perfect new Harley Quinn right there in Mikey Madsen. Like, don't. And this is, of course, if Margot Robbie doesn't come back. If she comes back, fucking keep her, please. But if she's not going to, I think you have a great Harley Quinn right there.
Yeah.
So that's
But
just my 2 cents.
what also is interesting to me, right? If this is true, right, we're going from Daniel Craig to Jeremy Allen White, right? I think, I don't know the age difference, but I feel like it's significant.
It is. It's like 20
So
years.
it's interesting to me that the story is able to shift that quickly. They're like, oh yeah, the age of Sergeant Rock for this story does not matter. And maybe they were going
Mhm.
to play Daniel Craig younger. Maybe they're going to have Jeremy Allen White play older, and maybe both could pass for whatever they needed to. But it's different body types, different types of acting, different physicalities, different ages. So it is interesting if this is a script that has been sort of greenlit and ready to go. That they're able to cast a different actor 20 years apart.
No, it is a very interesting observation, but you might be right. It might be one of those situations of one's 30, one's 50, the character's 40. And it's just like, kind of see how it
Let's
goes
see.
from there.
Daniel Craig is 56 years old,
Hmm.
and he's 34. Yeah, you could probably, I don't know, could Craig 45? You think either of them could play 45?
I think Craig could play 45.
But could Jeremy?
Yeah. That's just some makeup and some pretend your knees hurt, baby. You'll be fine. That's 45 right there.
You know what? My knees hurt at 28, so
But we
you
aren't
know.
Jeremy Allen White. That's important to
This is
remember.
also true.
Did you see the
I
Iron
could,
Claw? I can't do
I
that
could,
shit.
I still haven't.
Oh, dude, it's so good. Jimmy Allen White's so good in it. Oh,
I need to.
such a
I
good movie.
wanted to. Listen, man. I am deep. I am deep in the Oscars right now. But
Yes,
no, I mean,
of
I think
course.
Jeremy Allen White's a great talent to add, and I think I love the idea of this movie making being made for 40, 80, 90 million to make their money back. I think if Superman's great and you can announce this, especially with the love and hype of like Creature Commandos, I think that they could make that back very easily.
Yes, yes. And speaking of $40 million budgets, Nick, let's
Mm.
move on to the next story in the DC universe here. And this is a follow up to one we talked about last time, and that is that Clayface has officially found its director, and it is going to be James Watkins of the Speak No Evil remake fame. It's going to be written by Mike Flanagan, as we know, produced by Matt Reeves, and also has a $40 million budget. Now, maybe my brain conflicted the two stories, and I gave that $40 million budget to Sergeant Rock, but I could have sworn I read that they're both going to be $40 million. If I'm wrong in the live chat or in the comments, somebody please tell me that I'm wrong. But I could have sworn I read that somewhere, and it would make sense for both. I think I don't think Sergeant Rock needs to be $100 million movie, but I think this is a perfectly fine choice. I think this is a great choice for the movie. If you're not going to get Mike Flanagan, which makes me sad. I wish Mike Flanagan could direct the film, but he has other commitments, a la the Exorcist remake and the Carrie TV show. But, I think this is a perfectly adequate substitute, especially if you're going to have a script that I know is going to be strong because it's Mike Flanagan. I think he's one of the best writers working today. If you haven't watched any of his series, Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, incredible shows. I actually haven't watched Follow the House of Usher yet, but I hear it's fantastic. So, I want to dive into that as well. But Nicholas, what are your thoughts on this job officially going to James Watkins?
I did enjoy Speak No Evil, to be honest with you. I think that most of my issues with that movie do stem from, I think, greater script issues. So I think pairing that with a Mike Flanagan script is a recipe for success. I think that James Watkins did an excellent job. I really loved the direction of Speak No Evil. I thought it was very well helmed, and if you're looking for someone who has certified box office success and can fit within your budget to do this, I think he's a great choice personally. What I'm more interested in now at this point is casting, right? Because there's a few different
Mm.
things, right? You have James Gunn saying that if you play the character in animation, you will be playing them in live action. And Alan Tudyk has played Clayface in Creature Commandos. He's played Clayface on the Harley Quinn show. So he has already established that he is Clayface in multiple, at least two different universes. So I am curious if that will extend to a third universe. I would love to watch Alan Tudyk in a body horror movie, mostly because I just think he needs more love and recognition. The man's a boss, and I love him. No, I mean, in terms of everything that's out on DC's table for development and everything, I think that besides the Batman Part Two, I think Clayface is a movie I'm very actively excited and interested in. They've had
No,
great success with their villains. The Penguin series won how many awards this season? I think, and I know it's not part of the Matt Reeves universe, but he's producing it. He has involvement in it. You have an excellent writer and a solid director, and I think this is gonna be a win. It's just a matter of if people are interested in this type of movie with this type of character or not.
listen, you bring up a lot of interesting points, and whether or not Alan Tudyk will play the role, yes, they're trying to obviously get actors who play the animated people to play live action people, but I also think that mostly applies to characters they had initially planned to be in both types of projects. And James Gunn's made it pretty clear that he didn't have a plan for a Clayface movie. It got pitched to him, and he loved the pitch and loved the script, so they're going to do it. And I think that's very cool and very interesting. And so, Alan Tudyk could absolutely play the role, and I think he would kill it, excuse me, but I don't think it's law that they have to use him. But I would love it if
It's
they
not
did.
law. It's not law. It's not
Yeah.
law, you know. But I think it's interesting. I think more realistically is like Doctor Phosphorus showing up
Mm.
in a movie and Alan Tudyk playing him, in the
Yes, I
actual
think that
full-fledged DC
is.
universe.
Yes, I think that is likely, for sure. But yeah, no, I think this is a great idea. I hope it does well. That's kind of my only thing. And it being produced by Matt Reeves does raise some interesting questions. We know it's going to be DCU, but will other projects? Who knows? Who knows indeed? And this last section of our DC portion of the show was something that the internet was totally, completely normal about and didn't make a big deal out of at all, Nicholas. I don't know if
Nobody,
if you're.
everyone remained perfectly calm and chill about it. It was weird.
Yeah, yeah, it was so weird. This photo happened. James Gunn with Zack Snyder. James saying, "Always a pleasure catching up with my friend Zack Snyder, consummate filmmaker and a doubly consummate storyteller." And where they're at, a lot of people immediately recognize is outside of like the DC Universe writers' room, is where they were. So, a couple things to point out here. One, they've known each other for a really long time. Zack Snyder actually directed the James Gunn script Dawn of the Dead. It was Zack Snyder's feature film debut as a director. And that film rules, by the way, if you haven't watched it. And, they've obviously known each other for a long time. There are sections of fandom who want them to hate each other. Personally, I'm a big fan of what Zack Snyder did with DC for the most part. I'm a big fan of what James Gunn did with DC as well. I like both. There are some people who are haters of one, haters of the other, haters of both. I'm a lover of both. And, there are a lot of Snyder fans who aren't necessarily the quote Snyder bros. And I think this picture is just interesting. And there's something that makes it more interesting, which I want to dive into with you in a second. But before that, I want to get your thoughts on this. Do you think this picture, because they know when they post this picture, like what they're doing, like they're not stupid people. Do you think that they're about to do like a big marketing push for Superman and they're trying to get all the fans united? So, hey, let's take a photo and kind of talk about that and like be together. Or what do you think the purpose behind the photo was? And then after I get your thoughts, I'm going to drop the extra piece of information that makes this rather interesting. But first, your thoughts on just the image itself as you know it.
I mean, it could be nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could be something. No, genuinely, I don't know this extra information. I can sit here and speculate a thousand which ways, right? I could say, oh, he's looking for filmmakers that know this. There's a movie like The Authority coming out, or we need these characters like to be portrayed as gods in the highest level in this rich mythology, which we know Zack Snyder loves to do and can do very well. There's also that with the Robin movie, right? The dynamic duo. They're
Mm-hmm.
looking to branch into animation and he is committed to telling outsourced story. Maybe this is how we get the Justice League part 2 and 3, but in animated form. I don't think any of this is happening. I'm just saying I can sit here and speculate all day on it, but I think really what it is as we've seen, right, there has not been a whole lot of marketing for Superman, and I think they're playing it close to the chest. I'm sure there's a lot of cards, and we probably are on the precipice of a very big marketing push. And they're trying to be cost effective with all this. So what's an easy, cheap way to market something? Oh, we buy Zack Snyder lunch. He comes to the comes to the studio, takes a photo with James Gunn, and we're getting retweeted, and the internet's gonna blow up and be chill about it. And genuinely, I think that's what it was. I think that this is all a marketing for Superman, just as a way to try to unite fans, show that everyone's cool. Zack Snyder's way of saying, like, hey, we're good here. No worries about it, Look, I'm passing the baton to the new people. I think that's really just what it is, some of the Snyder bros, as we call them, they can be a little bit toxic. I'm just going to call it like it is. So I think this is a way to try to unify and sort of calm that base before, Superman's getting review bombed and the cast is being harassed and everything we've seen happen in the past.
Yeah, and something else to point out too is Warner Brothers and DC are no stranger to kind of asking or using Zack Snyder to promote things. Because you remember when he randomly tweeted that he was excited to see Blue Beetle? That was very
I do remember that.
interesting when that happened. And hey, maybe he just fucking loves the character. I hope that's the case. But it's just, it was one of those things. But the piece of news that you don't know about. I'm going to go to my single, then I'm going to cut to you. today, DC Studios had a private press event that they're going to go public with on Monday about what they discussed. And this picture is very specific timing to that news, right? Now, the flip side of that is some people came out of the press event saying, hey, I'm going to be completely honest, I don't know why they invited the press out here. We didn't really learn anything new. Like, there are a lot of people who just came out and just straight up said that. Like, what you hear Monday is not earth-shattering. So I'm guessing it may be a new slate announcement. Maybe it's a, I don't think we're going to get news about, like, Robert Pattinson's joining the DCU, or Zack Snyder's going to be continuing the animation of his Snyderverse. Like, I don't think it's going to be anything like that, necessarily, just based on the reactions I've heard. But it looks like on Monday we'll hear something, and I think the timing of the photo was just a bit odd.
Well,
that is all. Does that add anything to your speculation?
No, honestly, I think really what it is simply is they saw that opportunity, right? But also think about it from this perspective, right? Zack Snyder ate a lot of shit with the Justice League, right? Warner Brothers treated him like absolute trash during it, but he played ball. He did, he didn't besmirch them in the press. He supported the movie. He, did everything. And then ultimately we saw the Snyder Cut released, after years and years of campaigning, but he was someone that always played ball, didn't want to really raise any flags and just sort of kept, biding his time. Right. But here's the other flip side, right? His wife is a huge producer.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she was invited and he was just the plus one, or maybe they are looking to have him as a producer on a project. Maybe he's looking to be like, no, I want to step back, but I really like this universe. Maybe I'll help produce something. Maybe get my name in the credits. Maybe not executive produce, just to have that Snyder name in the credits.
And Nicholas, you have just presented the groundwork for my theory as to why he was there.
Oh.
When Wonder Woman 1984 came out, Zack Snyder was credited as a producer of that film, even though he had not been working at Warner Brothers for some time. And usually, it's because you make deals at the studio when you're going to be involved in a lot of projects of saying, like, any version of this movie, I'm a producer on. Which is why, like, even with Deadpool and Wolverine, like, Lauren Schuster Donner is still a producer from Fox. Because I'm sure she made a deal 12 years ago that, hey, any Deadpool movies with Ryan Reynolds, like, I'm the producer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's how it is. What if, follow me here, and I'm going to find out if I'm wrong on Monday, which I probably am. This is just a fun theory. What if that deal of, I'm going to be a producer of any Wonder Woman movie that Gal Gadot is in, did not just limit it to Gal Gadot? What if Zack Snyder made a deal that said any live-action Wonder Woman film with these parameters, I have to be listed as a producer on? And what if what they're announcing Monday is the official release date of the Wonder Woman project they were doing, Paradise Lost? And since it's a Wonder Woman project, maybe it falls into the guidelines of, hey, technically, by contract, Zack is a producer on this. Let's bring him in.
Well, maybe
I feel
even
like maybe that's
what's
going on.
Maybe on the flip of that, maybe he has that deep in with Superman.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just a credited name-only producer on Superman.
Could be. Maybe.
No, I think both of what we're saying about the producing. I think it is a producing element to it, and maybe there is I like Paradise Lost. I think that makes sense.
By the way, I've seen some negativity online of like, oh, if he's directing a movie for the DCU, that's so stupid. I think if he's directing a movie for the DCU, that's fucking cool as shit. Personally, I think that's cool. Because, like, especially if he, like, because a lot of the people who give shit to Zack Snyder is because they blame the stories a lot. And Zack Snyder, I would say, is not the world's greatest writer, and he doesn't even really do a lot of the writing on the films anyway. But, like, he's a beautifully gifted visual storyteller, and he can direct the fuck out of a movie. And if you give him an awesome screenplay, I mean, look at movies like 300 and Watchmen, and, like, he can make a kick-ass movie. And it's like, if he has a great script, I'm down to watch whatever he directs in the DCU. Of course, that's just if he's doing that. I don't necessarily think that is what's happening. But like the people who were reacting negatively to the idea of that, I found very silly. I was like, this would be very cool, like if he did that. But that is what it is. But guys, the DC section of our show is now done, and don't worry, we are still going to get to the James Bond news that a lot of you have clicked on for. And if you're watching after we're live, it's time-stamped. You can jump to it. But with DC must come Marvel. We have a lot of Marvel Studios news to talk about as well, everybody. Let's get into the first one, Nicholas. Nova was going to have a series that we kind of heard a little bit about. They had hired a showrunner. They were developing it. And it looks like this Nova series and countless other series, some we didn't even know about officially, have indefinitely paused production and development, rather, not production, development. Because Marvel Studios is currently figuring out what to focus on. This comes to us from Deadline. They paused development on 3 series: Nova, Strange Academy, which we heard rumblings of from like Daniel RPK and other scoopers that they were going to be doing something like that. But the one that none of us heard about was Terror Inc. The projects were never officially greenlit. They were just kind of hiring writers and developing them to kind of get them ready to go. And as we mentioned before, the decision is reflective of Marvel's new approach to TV development, to actually make TV like TV and not like movies. And I think there's a couple things to discuss here. One, of the things that are being paused, the Nova one surprises me the most because I feel like it was this close to being greenlit. I feel like it was right there when they paused it. And something else to point out as well. The Deadline article mentions that these shows aren't necessarily canceled forever. They could pick these back up and start developing them again. They're just pausing development on them now because they have other things to focus on and worry about. And honestly, in my opinion, I think this is a good thing. I think Marvel is finally taking the approach of like, we don't have to release everything we announce or everything that we start on. We can start a project and then decide it's not ready right now. It's not happening right now. I mean, fucking look at Blade, which has been a bit of annoying because of how they used to be. But on the TV side, I think Brad Winderbaum is one of their better executives working there. He's been doing a great job with streaming animation and television. And I feel like he is part of the reason behind this, to just be kind of like, these shows aren't ready. They're not going to be ready. We need to finish up other stuff first. We got to pause development. We got to make sure that if we're going to continue, it's going to be right and they're going to be good. That's the approach. I'm a fan of it, personally. How about you, man?
No, I agree. I think that Marvel is doing a hard creative reset, and I think it's much needed. It is a shame because these all sound to me like interesting projects, quite frankly. And I think that with Infinity War, we're a little bit far removed right now, right? But Thanos decimating the Nova Corps is a great introduction point for Nova. And
Yes.
but on the flip side of that, the farther removed away we get from that, do we care anymore? Like, do we want to watch something take in the past? So they're gonna have to take a new creative approach, at that point. On the flip side, Wong, our Sorcerer Supreme, I love that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to see him show. Every time he shows up in something, it's always great. He had a great small role in Shang-Chi. He was great on She-Hulk as well. And he wasn't in a whole lot of Doctor Strange too, but when he was, he is an excellent character, quite frankly. And you have oh my gosh, America Chavez, is at the training facility. I think that was a great, I think that would sort of turn it more into an America Chavez vehicle, more so than anything. And to be honest, I'm not familiar with Terror Inc. Sounded cool though, when I googled it, seemed like the more horror elements of Marvel, which I think we saw done phenomenally with Werewolf by Night.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was great, and even the horror elements of like Agatha and a little bit of Doctor Strange too, right? Because you had that Sam Raimi element. Marvel, when they lean into their horror roots, I think is always entertaining. So to have a whole show developed around that would be very enticing. But again, I think it speaks more to the problem of like, we're scattered shot with plot lines in the MCU right now. So, I think taking that time to refine the story and not just keep throwing characters at the wall, hoping to see who sticks. I mean, we're three movies away from the next Avengers movie, and I'll be fucked if I could tell you who the Avengers are. You know,
Yeah.
even Captain America: Brave New World. We need to reform the Avengers. End of the movie, you still don't know who they are. So I I think it's a smart move, and quite frankly, I think I would be okay with Marvel on a whole dialing it back with the TV shows. I think the special presentations were great. I thought Werewolf by Night was great. I don't know why we don't have about 50 more of those. I don't necessarily
Yeah.
need a Nova series. Give me an hour special presentation. I feel like maybe the character is deserving a little more of that. But I think if you're trying to cut budgets and introduce characters, that's a way to do it. And the Guardian special, the Christmas special, I really liked that. Why is there not a Christmas special? There's a comic where Wong saves Christmas with Fing Fang Boom. That just has special presentation written all over it. So it is sad to see these series getting pushed to the side. While I guess they were never greenlit, so it's hard to say they were canceled. They are interesting characters, and it did sort of spark this interest of like, oh, are we heading in a cool direction? They're taking swings on these, but I think they have more in-house issues that they need to straighten out before they start doing that again.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. And I'm glad to see that these in house issues are being worked on. And I think the quality of Fantastic Four and Doomsday are going to be very, you know, indicative of are these problems being fixed? Same thing with Daredevil and Ironheart and the shows coming out. I think it's going to kind of be like, are they getting their shit together? Is that happening? And I'm glad that they're taking the approach of quality is back. Hopefully, that's what we continue to see from them. But moving on to the next little part of our Marvel section here, file this one under fuck yeah. This is something that was talked about by scoopers such as Daniel RPK, My Time to Shine Hello, and of the sorts, but has now been officially confirmed by Variety that Tony Dalton will reprise the Hawkeye role of Swordsman in Daredevil Born Again. He's going to be in 2 episodes. I fucking love this. Not only because I thought Swordsman was a fucking great character in Hawkeye, but also because something that I personally love that some of these shows have been doing is they take characters that are one way tonally and they put them in a world that's not that, and seeing how the character adjusts from a creative standpoint and from a performance standpoint. And you need great actors to pull that off. And Tony Dalton is an exceptional actor. If you have not seen his work in Better Call Saul, oh my God, go watch him in that show. But specifically, using Daredevil as an example again, I personally really liked seeing him on She-Hulk. And what I liked about it was that it was a character that does not belong in that tone, in that side of the MCU, placing him there and seeing how not only creatively how to handle that, but also the performance, you could tell it was the same Daredevil, even if at the time we weren't sure if it was going to be, but Charlie Cox was playing the role that you could see this character doing these things. You just would not typically see him in this more of a lighthearted situation and how that goes. And I'm very fascinated to see the inverse of that, of seeing Swordsman, this very whimsical, funny kind of character, in this dark, depressing Daredevil Born Again world. Like, I'm so fascinated by that because we also know we're going to get Miss Marvel's dad in the same situation. And I'm very, very excited about this. This pleases me greatly. Nicholas, how you feeling about this?
No, listen, I'm very excited. As you know, I've been rewatching Daredevil with my girlfriend, and we are now in the phase of all the miscellaneous stuff that occurred between season 3 and now Daredevil Born Again. And I was
Nice.
I was very adamant about watching the Hawkeye finale again. One, for Kingpin to set that up into Echo, but two,
Yeah.
because of Swordsman, and I just wanted the refresher as well. But even just watching the finale, we literally just watched it right before we started the first stream. He's silly, he's goofy, he's having a good time. Right at the end, he's like, haha, on guard, and he's stabbing and flailing. And I think that with Daredevil, now we're just going to see blood effects.
Yeah.
And it could be a flip of where, maybe vigilantes are on the rise, right? From what we've seen with Daredevil Born Again, right? It seems like he hasn't been Daredevil for a while, which is probably giving way for, there's a void to be filled with all these heroes. Obviously, we see like White Tiger in the trailer, right? That's presumably like a new vigilante on the scene. So maybe, the excitement and the thrill that he felt at the end of Hawkeye leads into him moving forward into you know doing that more full time as a full on vigilante, and maybe being in over his head because he's just doing it for fun. And then Bullseye or Muse are running around on the fucking street. I wouldn't be surprised if he even dies. But
Yeah.
also on the flip, maybe with the events of the end of Hawkeye, maybe it is strictly just from a legal perspective that he actually needs Matt Murdock.
Mm-hmm.
So I think stuff like that, it is interesting to see. And I think the way I could see it happening is that sort of like reality snap, right? Where he thinks, oh, it's all fun and games in the vigilante, and Daredevil's like, it's not fun and games. There's blood and death. Like I've made a huge mistake type shit that I think Swordsman's gonna deal with.
Yeah.
But I would honestly, I would love for it to just take a sinister turn and get Tony Dalton do what he does great, like what he did on Better Call Saul. But
Mm-hmm.
I could see it being sort of that mental snap of thinking it's all like fun and games, fighting crime, and then shit gets a little too real, and you gotta bow out.
And that reminds me a little bit of something I loved in comics. Every time I would read a crossover comic between Spider-Man and the Punisher, it had that exact vibe of like Spider-Man's doing his quips, doing his fun thing. He's a kid, and then he looks over and Punisher's like murdering people. And Spider-Man
This
has
is
this thing of just like, yeah, and Spider-Man's just like, Jesus, man, like,
well,
and
and
like
stuff
you can
like
create something
that.
funny from that.
Well, and stuff like that is what makes, from a comic perspective, right? What makes certain panels so impactful, right? Like, what's the one? Is it in the Civil War comics where Punisher's
Yes,
holding like Spider-Man's like
yes,
bloodied, shot up body?
mm-hmm.
That I think it allows for these breathing room. Like, yeah, we're seeing the fun and games, and we're seeing the harsh criminality. What happens when these two diverge? And it leads to a lot of interesting conversations of, oh man, he's just a kid. Why is he doing all this? And more so like what I think it just that sort of split is interesting, and I think that's the stuff that leads to it. That's why, maybe Deadpool and Wolverine, why that works so well is you have Wolverine just trying to kill himself the whole movie, and Daredevil being the fun, quippy one, and that's what makes that sort of split so entertaining when we see it.
Yeah, no,
That's
it's
why
true.
maybe Foggy and Matt work so well. Is that split again?
Yeah, yeah. Listen, the straight man always has a place in comedy and storytelling. Always, always, always. You need him. You really need him. Guys, that'll conclude it for the Marvel section, news section of the show. But guys, we have one more thing before we get to James Bond. And I know you're thinking like, God, you're taking forever to get to James Bond. Guys, this is earth-shattering shit. Okay? Like, when I heard this news today, I just did the opening lyrics to With Arms Wide Open by accident. but
Don't copyright us.
yeah, please don't demonetize us. But guys, this news is, I couldn't believe it. Like, I thought I was in a dream world, like, when I saw this. There's a new Martin Scorsese crime thriller movie coming out, everybody. And it's starring the fucking Rock. Let's go.
Cinema.
Let's go.
Cinema.
This comes off the heels of The Rock starring in The Smashing Machine for A24 and one of the Safdie brothers, so he's clearly trying to take a step into more serious roles. The film also stars
we memed
Emily.
a little too hard on Black Adam, and now we're getting the Rock Oscar movies.
Yes, I'm excited for this. The film also stars Emily Blunt, Leonardo DiCaprio. It focuses on a turbulent time on the island paradise when an aspiring mob boss battled rival crime factions to the west control of the underworld of the Hawaiian Islands. And apparently it's loosely based on a true story. Now, this package is being shopped around. A studio has not purchased it yet, but it has caused a bidding war, which we love. And hopefully we'll get to see this. But I'm so fucking fascinated by this. Like, I literally sat at work and like zoned out just thinking like, man, never, like, this was not on anyone's fucking bingo card. Like nobody was like Scorsese and The Rock, let's fucking do it, let's go. And like what's even more fascinating is like if the Smashing Machine comes out and it sucks, that's going to be an interesting thing. I'm going to cut to you to fix my camera issue, but like I think it's going to be something that clearly either Scorsese knows that he's great in that film already, or we're going to get something else and something more. You know, what are your thoughts on this whole just insane story?
Well, one, clearly The Rock and Emily Blunt love working together, right? Because this is going to be their third movie, right? We have the critically acclaimed Jungle Cruise, we have the Smashing Machine, and now we have this, right? So, maybe it's something where Emily Blunt saw, worked very closely with The Rock on this movie and, was approached with the Scorsese thing and was like, hey, my guy, like, listen, you're going to laugh at first, but hear me out on this. And The Rock is a great producer, and it's very clear that he is trying to reshape and get out of this bottleneck of these big blockbusters. And quite frankly, I have to respect that, And Martin Scorsese is showing just no signs of slowing down and looking for ways to maybe challenge himself. So maybe he's like, you know what? I want this challenge. I'm going to put The Rock in my movie and we're going to see what happens. Let's give it a go. But more importantly, right, this is on an island based on a true story, and The Rock is very in touch with sort of his Pacific Islander heritage. So I think maybe that is also, as we saw with Martin Scorsese with Killers of the Flower Moon, right? Heritage and portrayal is something that's very important to him. So I think, I believe The Rock is even credited as a producer for this upcoming movie. So it does make sense for him to have that involvement in a story about, that does involve his heritage. I think it's interesting. You have DiCaprio and Blunt. It's Scorsese. I'm more fascinated and intrigued by it, and maybe Scorsese knows that. Maybe he is like, this is how I get this movie made. This is how I make a wave. This is a hell of a marketing campaign for this. I'm excited. I would be. It started a bidding war, but he had a very successful run with Killers of the Flower Moon. He got a theatrical release window with it. Now, granted, it wasn't major, but he did get it. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he really enjoyed working with that. He's worked with Apple, he's worked with Netflix, and he's worked with the big studios. So I would be curious where it lines up. But honestly, my money, I bet, would be Apple.
That would be an interesting thing, and I like you brought up so many good points in your analysis there, and I think that also, the fact that like his movies have struggled to break even, or not break even, but turn profits in theaters. This is an interesting idea, but dude, I'm not even going to go into the full analysis of it. You did so good. I need to go into this. Dude, the fucking press tour. We haven't even talked about the press tour. Are they going to make Martin Scorsese watch Black Adam on, like, BuzzFeed? Do you know how much money I would pay to see that? Like, to watch him watch Black Adam? I'd pay so much money.
Listen, and Martin Scorsese's I believe it's his granddaughter, very popular on TikTok, and often involves her grandfather Marty in these endeavors. Are we going to get Martin Scorsese in the classic black turtleneck with the gold chain and the fanny pack? If anyone can make Martin Scorsese's granddaughter, if you're listening, you're probably not. Why would you be? Make this happen.
I would love to see that.
Please.
I would love to see that.
Listen, I think it's great, and I think that if Smashing Machine is great, and let's say The Rock hypothetically does get these award accolades, even just nominations, or is in the talks and the running, that's just going to fuel that performance and the marketing for this movie. So I'm intrigued. Color me intrigued.
All I know is the hierarchy of the Scorsese films is about to change. Guys, what do you think of The fucking Rock joining Martin Scorsese in his next feature if this film happens, which I have no reason to think it wouldn't? Let us know in the comments as we finally get to the main story of today. Guys, the James Bond franchise has been owned by the Broccoli family for literal decades, since the 60s. And the current shepherd of that family, Barbara Broccoli, and I believe it's her stepbrother. I could be wrong about that. Correct me in the comments if I am. They, up to this point, have been kind of in charge of the James Bond movies. They've been very creatively involved in all of them. You know, not all the decisions were great, but they were always made for the integrity of the character and what they felt was best for the film. And you didn't have people like this in Hollywood for many projects anymore. You know, basically just a liaison to be like, no, we are responsible for where this franchise should go, who this character is, what they're supposed to be. Barbara Broccoli quotes her father all the time, who originally ran all the Bond movies, saying something along the lines of, don't let temporary people make permanent decisions. And so she would use that whenever a new distribution company or a new production company would come in and try to make Bond and try to make decisions. She's like, no, I am the remaining factor. Like, we are the people who've been here since the beginning to handle this. They will no longer be involved creatively with James Bond at all anymore. It's over. That is a huge fucking shock to the film world. That's almost crazy to think about. Because what had happened is a while ago, a few years ago, we reported on the show that Amazon had purchased all of MGM. And part of that being the James Bond library and the exclusive rights to make more James Bond films. But a pre-existing deal with MGM, of course, was that the Broccoli still controlled the James Bond franchise. And so ever since 2021, after No Time to Die, the Broccolis and Amazon have been trying to make a James Bond movie together we're going on 4 years now. And there were tons of setbacks. Obviously, we don't even know who the new James Bond is. There were a lot of infighting. And then last year, we heard reports of how bad the infighting was. Barbara Broccoli even telling close friends these people are, quote, fucking idiots. And that Amazon wants to do, like, spin-offs of everything. You know, everything on the table being like a Moneypenny spin-off. Like, just everything. Like, you know, do we do a TV show? Do we do this? How we do it? And the Broccoli's being like, whoa. No, that is not what this character is. That's not what we're doing. Like, this is ridiculous. Well, Amazon got tired of arguing with the Broccolis. So they shelled out, and this is not a lie, Deadline confirmed this, an extra $1 billion to fully control James Bond away from the Broccolis. For those thinking like, oh, the Broccoli shouldn't have given it up, $1 billion, guys, I would sell movie nights for 2 months of rent. Okay, let's be very clear about this. And this is something that I love dear with my heart. It's the only thing I look forward to. I would sell it for 2 months rent, let alone fucking $1 billion. But people are quoted in the Variety article that we have and in Deadline, all the trades, everyone's shocked. And they're basically saying that, like, the people in the Broccoli estate are taking this as if they lost a family member. Like, they are devastated by this. Again, it's crazy. Michael G. Wilson is the name. I believe it's her stepbrother. And they're all, quote, co-owners on the agreement. But, like, Amazon has full creative control. That basically means nothing. It basically means they're going to be producers by name, as we were talking about earlier. Guys, the question now then becomes, what is Amazon going to do with James Bond? Now, you know I'm kind of treating this very much so as like the sky is falling, but there are some things to point out here. Amazon.
When the sky falls.
I like that. Amazon has done a lot of great things, like The Boys and The Boys universe. Excellent. There are other things they've done too. You know, very successful, popular shows. Fallout is a huge show on Amazon right now that's beloved by many people. It's Chris Nolan's brother, for God's sake. So I'm not saying that they are incapable of making good stuff for James Bond. However, for those hoping that James Bond would not go the route of Star Wars and Marvel, of taking something that was very singular and beloved and an event and then diluting it for its assets to kind of mine it for everything you can. That's what's going to happen. Like, I would be thoroughly shocked if Amazon didn't do that. Like, why pay the $1 billion to the Broccoli's unless you want to get started on James Bond shit right fucking now, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And with CinemaCon coming up in April, I think, they probably want to get an announcement about James Bond ready. So they're probably like, all right, enough. Let's fucking go. And look, I hope it just stays feature films, and I hope that, you know, the character can be what it's supposed to be. But I don't love this. I don't love this. But again, I don't think that this means it's suddenly, this is the worst thing ever, it's all going to be trash. I don't think that necessarily. But I do think that if you think this is just a film franchise from now on, you're crazy. Like, there's no way that Amazon just does that. They're going to do all kinds of shit. They've already done a fucking reality show, for God's sake. So, Nicholas, I'm tossing this to you now.
I mean, there's no way we're walking out of this without at least a series about his first year in MI, like his training days, you know?
Yeah, which nobody wants.
Starring some random British actor that's like a no name or something, you know?
Yeah, he got hired because he has millions of followers on Instagram, so he's James Bond now.
Yep, and he's British.
Yeah.
You know, they have been involved in it. Obviously, this is speaking to some greater developmental issues. I think it's a bad warning sign that they haven't been able to get a James Bond movie off the ground in 4 years. You know, that speaks to, you know, what we've seen, and they're protective of the franchise and finally just giving in. You know, I am interested to see what Amazon's gonna pull out next. You know, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to get excited about. You know, I don't think it's good news, particularly if I'm going to be honest, for me personally. I think dilution of IP is a massive issue, you know, and I think it's harder when you have, you know, Star Wars and Marvel and DC are struggling with that. You know, that is a problem, but they also have the benefit of having a huge stable of characters. You know, they're diluting it with characters and quantity. You know, it's not 20 Iron Man movies and a series, you know, which is what we're going to get with James Bond. Do people want a Moneypenny series? No. Do people want a M series? No. Do people want a Q series? No. You know, like, this is not, they are supporting players and are strongest as that, you know, and if you can't have a good screenwriter to develop those backstories and those character moments, then that's a greater issue, you know. You need to focus on James Bond, and I don't need a James Bond series. I don't need a 006, a 008. You know, I don't need all these spin-off series that we're going to inevitably get with it, because that's what they love to do, right? Isn't that where Citadel, isn't that Prime?
Yep.
And you have like Citadel this location, Citadel location, this location. We have a series coming on CBS called FBI CIA, because it's a CIA spin-off of an FBI show. What the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it is something that is concerning, because James Bond, you know, this is a beloved franchise. And I hope that they do right upon it, and that they feel the need to get it right, but they're also big corporations, so why would they? It's not all bad though. I mean, we're one step closer now to Henry Cavill as Bond. He's got that Warhammer series that is gunning forward on Prime Video. So if that relationship works out great, why would they not cast him? You know,
who knows what they're going to do? The only positive I can see from it, not even the Cavill one, but like Jonathan Nolan's in-house at Amazon, if they can convince him to write it, I think he can convince his brother to direct it. We've always wanted to see a Chris Nolan Bond movie, but I think
he's gonna need a theatrical window for that,
and that would save it, right? Because I think the moment Chris Nolan finds out the Broccoli's aren't involved, he's like, "Man, fuck that! I ain't doing this." You know,
him emailing them on the side, like, "What do you think of this?"
Yeah, but you know, it's one of those. It's just a situation like it could be fine. I'm just so fucking worried it won't be. Like this was. It's just such a lose for like people, you know, protecting IP that's not like a major large corporation. You know, like it's just one of those. It just sucks. Like, it was a bummer. Like, I read this and I was just fucking bummed out. Like, that's just how I felt. I was just like,
You kind of
man.
read it and you're like, oh man,
Yeah,
that
yeah, like I
sucks.
felt sad. And like this is something, this franchise is older than Doctor Who. It's older than Star Trek. Like it's been around since 1962. Like, that's crazy. And the thing that was so interesting with the Broccoli's who were running it is like they recognized when the franchise, whenever, because it happened a couple times, they recognized when the franchise was being left behind or when it was not aging well, and they made the story adjustments while still maintaining the integrity of the character and evolving him for a new time. Hell, in one of the movies, I think M tells him, like, you're a misogynistic, like, piece of the Cold War that should have never gone past that. And it's like almost self-aware dialogue of like, we need to take you and make you evolve into something more modern. But the Broccoli's were able to recognize that and do that while still maintaining the character. Like Casino Royale completely almost reinvented what James Bond was, but it was still James Bond, you know?
Mm.
And like the Daniel Craig era, a lot of people my age, like that's their James Bond. And like, what's going to happen after this? It's just one of those things where like it's so up in the air of like fuckery is afoot is kind of what's happening of like what's gonna happen. Like it's kind of like when like a mom suddenly sees their toddler with a knife. It's like, oh, like, is he just gonna set it down? Is he gonna walk it over to me nicely, or is he gonna take off running?
If I react too quickly, is that going to worsen the situation?
Yeah, it's just like that. Like, it's just like, oh man, like, what is this? This sucks.
You know,
And
it
look,
could be fine, could be bad. Leaning toward could be bad, but you know, let's
yeah,
see the talent that gets involved, right? Let's see who this next James
yes,
Bond is. Let's see who we sorry. Let's see who we get attached as a writer. Let's see who we get attached as a director. And you know, we're just gonna take this piece by piece, and you know, the internet will handle the rest.
as it always does. It's always there for us. And again, I want to say, Amazon announces there's a James Bond TV show now instead of a movie. I'm not saying that the TV show won't be great. Maybe it will be. But you've immediately just changed what that IP is now, and it's
Yeah.
forever not the same. You know, like it's immediately done.
I would not be
Like,
shocked if we get a TV show before the next movie.
yeah. Or, and what would piss me off even more is if they did an Amazon original James Bond and didn't release it theatrically. Oh my god, that would piss me off. That make me
It's you know what
so
it'll be?
angry.
It'll actually be I mean, there's been jokes and theories about like it being a connected universe or whatever, but I think we will legitimately see like a James Bond in training series, and then when that movie comes out, it's oh, this is the older version of that. Like this is linear. This is now the older James Bond.
Oh god. I mean, we'll fucking see.
We'll see.
I'm sure they're gonna announce something at CinemaCon. I'm sure, and
Oh, I am
it'll be
sure.
something. It'll be something. But yeah, guys, what do you think about the Broccoli's losing control of the James Bond franchise and it fully going to Amazon now? It just fully belongs to Daddy Bezos and company. So, you know, what do you think is going to happen? Is there a big positive side that we're missing, or are you kind of just as bummed as we are to hear about this? Let us know in the comments below. And guys, after a first attempt where we went for 20 minutes and my internet died, we have finally made it through the episode today. Thank you so much for those of you who are watching live. Thank you for sticking around. And for our audio listeners, thank you so much for listening as well. You're going to be super confused by the beginning of this episode. I appreciate you, and please consider coming to subscribe to us on YouTube and to watch us there as well. Guys, we are less than 80 subscribers away from being at 5,000. We'd love to get there with you. And Nicholas, do you have anything to add before we go?
60. I think we're about roughly 64 away.
Ooh, look at that.
Yeah, just did some quick maths. But yeah, and for what I want to add, as always, you know, thank you for watching. And links to all of our social medias can be found in the description, as well as links to all the articles and the sources that we were pulling from today.
Yes. And guys, with that, thank you so much for watching. We'll be back with another live stream on Monday. And until then, We will see you next time.